Ruler School is brought to you by Happy Little Hug Factory and these amazing patrons.
Extra special thank you to guest lecturer patrons Brody Harris and Lance Albertson.
Thank you for your support. Enjoy the video. Hey there guys, DMO73 here, bringing you another feature match for the week. Today we have Josh playing his Aimul and Friends list. It's a black-white list. He's playing against Austin, who is playing his take on Kirik, and he is using the Welser resonator to kind of do a little bit of combo in the middle of the game, potentially early game, to blast out a lot of damage. This is footage from our States event at ARG States in Michigan, so we'll have to see how this goes. These guys are actually playing the top 8 match of that format, so kudos to both of them for top 8ing that event. So it looks like Josh is going to be going on the play here. I believe he was higher to seed, so he got to choose, and he chose to go first. Either that or Austin chose to go second. He was making some decisions earlier in the day, choosing to go second, and I think in some matchups that's kind of relevant, but for Aimul, I'm not necessarily sure if that's the right decision. Josh calling that first stone with Aimul, hitting a basic white stone and choosing to pass the turn there. Calling stone with Austin, Dragon Ore to get a couple counters. Can immediately burn them to do the dig of Kirik. This is one of the things that I think using Dragon Ore in this monocolored format is very nice for Kirik, is that it makes him so he can start consistently filling his hand without with still being able to have a lot of counters, strength counters, to be able to use it for all of the other kind of effects that he needs to, such as ground and air supremacy, which he's just going to grab off the dig and then immediately cast, getting to go grab that PLA and put it into play. Now against white, because it doesn't have the green to support itself in terms of fairer spells and things like that, white is actually a pretty solid matchup against Kirik, purely because it has access to things like Naughty Child's Chastising, a lot of life gain, just in general, as well as things like Miscalculation, which are very cheap removal for aggression, and red no longer has that solid backup support protection and that green gave it when it was able to play dual stones. Playing an Angel of Hope here on turn 2. Thinking about playing the idol, the statue, but I think playing the Angel of Hope is a much better decision there, especially since he has Flourishing Hope in hand. So playing the Angel of Hope here goes into Austin's turn. He starts to recover, but he is still getting used to remembering to recover, draw then recover, rather than the other way around. Moving to combat, swinging for 5, or thinking about swinging for 5. Deciding first to call for stone before going into combat. Hits that Dragon Ore, gets a card, the 2 counters, goes back up to 7. Or it goes back up to 9 at this point. Swings in for 5. Josh is like, that's fine, no blocks. And then after he burns the 2 counters to try to kill it, he's going to use Miscalculation. And then he's going to play dead the PLA in response to that, so it can at least come back and get him the 2 counters back. So he'll go down to 5 and then back up to 7. So we'll get an answer from Austin to the removal, but it does cost him some work here. Some counters and some cards, and also preventing the damage. And again, like we said, we have Angel of Hope, who has life gain, so if he can't answer that Angel of Hope, it's going to probably gain a counter, at which point he can start making the hurdle that much bigger for Austin to be able to try to deal with. Attempts to cast Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm to try to kill the Angel of Hope in response to the combat. Josh deciding to try to play Flourishing Hope here. The Flourishing Hope is going to go ahead and resolve. Austin's still figuring out whether or not he wants to try to change anything here. He's going to go ahead and use the pathway part to go ahead and put the angel back in his hand after burning the energize. I'm not necessarily sure if that was the right decision. It wasted another card and your energize to get rid of a kind of small creature and prevents a small amount of life gain, but maybe Austin's thought process is any amount of life gain for white is really bad, especially when they have access to Aimul, and there's no real way for red to be able to remove his imperishable, so he's got to try to kill him fast. Hitting a Dragon Ore here off the top, getting another 2 counters. Swinging for 5. Says no blocks. At that point in time, Austin's just going to let the 5 damage go through. He doesn't want to get miscalced again after spending the counters. Does have access to a play dead there, it looks like. Paying 2 for a piggy, Howell's Great Hero Pig. Getting those 2 counters. Gonna spend the 2 to give swiftness and swing in. There comes the miscalculation. Choosing not to use the play dead. Maybe I'm incorrect in him having the play dead in hand. So Josh having a very strong start here, pretty successfully getting the keeping the damage down. Going ahead and doing the judgment of Aimul here. He doesn't miss a stone call thanks to having played the altar last turn, so he gets a stone into play tapped. Aimul will get to go in, and he gets the stone of has access to darkness now with 1 darkness source. That's really solid for him because of the fact that he has the Burgeoning Despair in his RFG. Choosing to do the removal, the instant invert of Mephistopheles gives all of the things on Austin's side permanent -2/-2. I'm not actually sure how I feel about that. I think that against Kirik, the first Mephistopheles that gets played probably needs to come in as the front side to force everything to come into play tapped. But maybe the thought process is it could potentially just get bounced anyway, and I might as well make Aimul be a... this point she would be a 9/9 with Drain, so getting to have even more of that life gain up. Austin hitting a basic red off the call for stone. And then choosing to pass the turn there. Oh, no, asking about how many different inverses there currently are for how big Aimul is going to be. Paying 1. Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm to try to burn Mephistopheles for 5. So sure, that's fine. He's going to awaken it as well to deal 4 extra damage to Josh, taking him down to 31. Playing a pig. Howell pig there. Imagine we have to see some form of second Dragon Palm. Yep, there it is. Otherwise, the first one's kind of no good. Choosing to use Arrival of the Hero here in response. It is free because of the Aimul, and it just says resonators you control take no damage until end of turn. So that second set of damage from the Heavens Sundering Dragon Palm just kind of whiffs. The Mephistopheles stays on board, and Josh is pretty set up to get a free 9 damage kind of reversal. Not to mention the fact that Mephistopheles will be able to swing in the air for another 10 damage. So quickly changing the life totals around here. Swings for the 10. Austin says, yeah, I can't really deal with it. Goes down to 3,000. Plays an Angel of Hope here. Main reason for playing the Angel of Hope first is so that when Aimul swings here and does the trade here to make it 4,000 to 21, because he's gained life, Angel of Hope is going to get a counter on it. This is important because when Angel of Hope inverts, as long as it has a counter, it can destroy a resonator. So getting that counter this way, rather than having to worry about attacking, means that if for some reason Josh is able to have his Aimul killed this turn, or if Josh could, say, have Separation of Fates, that's not the right card. Yes, maybe it is. I can't remember which one it is. To kill his own, not Separation, Karmic Retribution, to kill his own Aimul, then he could flip back and then reflip immediately and use the Angel of Hope to turn it into a removal spell. Swinging in with, blocking the pig with Angel of Hope. In response, he's going to sack the pig to gain the 10, recover Kirik, and then tap it to gain the 10 counters. He doesn't want Angel of Hope to get a free trigger and gain him some life, so he's like, well, I might as well just sacrifice the pig at this point. Here we see the God-Arded Welser. And then he's going to attempt to dig with Kirik here to try to get something better. The problem with this was a little bit of a misplay by creating a chase with the dig on the chase. But Josh could respond exactly how he did and cast the Burgeoning Despair, forcing the sacrifice of the Welser and the Piale before Austin could potentially have even seen a card to be able to duplicate. This would have been a moment where doing the dig before playing the Welser was probably the better call, just so you have access to a potential instant speed card. The problem here was he saw a Ground and Air Supremacy and a Play Dead. So like the Ground and Air Supremacy would have been nice, but he still would have had to pay the additional cost. So like it would have had to pay 10 counters, which is not super ideal. He would have gotten 2 Piales at that point, but ultimately now he's kind of trying to spend his turn reestablishing what he already had as a board state while staring down Josh's kind of massive board that includes a lot of life gain. A quick 9 in the air, 49 to 12. Gets a trigger off of the Angel, a 10 in the air to take him down to 2. He says, yeah, I can't really do anything. And then lethal right there with the Angel of Hope to finish off the game. So with that, we will be moving on to game 2. As we transition to the next game here, please go ahead and check out the Patreon down below. It helps to go to support the channel with lots of cool perks. You can also buy Force of Will swag at the Ruler School Spreadshirt down below. And be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to be notified when all of our videos goes live. Thank you guys so much, and let's go on to the next game. Moving into game 2 here, I think Austin's still choosing to take the draw. I think it's did choose to take the play this time. I think that was the better decision. Being able to force the early game aggression against Aimul, I think, is the best. Forcing him to be kind of on the back foot, so he doesn't necessarily have the will to be able to use all this free like cheap removal, and also still establish a board state to kind of overwhelm him. We'll have to see if that pays out for him this time. See that first turn Stone on the Hermit, which is used to grab the dragon. Out comes that very typical turn 1 for Kirik in the form of Ground and Air Supremacy. Didn't even have to worry about digging, which is great for him. He is still at risk because, having had that 1 white stone in the form of the Energize does give Josh access to Miscalculation. He only really needs 1. Does play the first turn Angel of Hope, just like the last time. Calls Stone here. Gets a regular basic Firestone. Swings in for 5. Josh says that's fine. I'm not going to worry about it. He's just wanting to make sure to see if Austin's going to potentially pump up. Austin, having learned his lesson off the first one, is choosing to say, I'm just going to take my 5 damage there. That's one of the other weirdnesses of Kirik versus Aimul, is with having access to this weird removal, just the threat of it makes things like pumping up Piale Ellie a little bit risky. Seeing the attempt to burn out here with the Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm, responding by using the Energize for a Flourishing Hope, getting to go into his turn. Getting a basic white stone, swinging. You see that pathway part to bounce it back to the hands. Play the altar. I think there's 2 miscalculations in Josh's hand, so he's feeling pretty comfortable right now. Probably going to see a next turn flip just like we did before. 2 stones, don't miss a ramp, get the altar, have an Aimul. Obviously preferring to have another inverse creature like the Angel of Hope, but even just Aimul by itself with having a Magic Stone of Hope and the altar is being a 7/7, potentially a 9/9. Out comes out the Ultra Dragon. Now this is a very interesting play here because it'll make it that anything that Aimul brings into play will just immediately take 20 damage. The only thing that changes that is if Josh happens to flip into a Ray the Black Owl. Because what will happen here is Ray the Black Owl will come into play and then immediately flip. It's all part of the Aimul resolution. So then when it exists and then gets targeted by Ultra Dragon, that effect will be negated because of Zero's effect. We're going to see a Mother's Love during casting the upkeep to try to draw a card for Josh. Trying to do a little bit of deck thinning here. Looks like he has an Arrival of the Hero as well, which is great considering he's probably about to do Judgment. Altar gets him a basic stone. Looking at the top three, hoping to probably see a 0. Unfortunately, does not. Sees double miscalculation, and it looked like an Angel of Hope, so there really wasn't a reason to play it. He is going to cast... Oh, he missed the trigger there to flip over a stone. Oh, no, he does catch it there. It is a mandatory trigger. So it does have access to the Burgeoning Despair now in his graveyard next turn, which potentially, based on if he does have the Arrival of the Hero in his hand, is probably a board wipe. Call Stone, hitting that Dragon Ore, finally getting a chance to recover some stones. Let's see a Howell Pig. Looks like we have a Play Dead there. Swings for 10. Oh, thinking about swinging for 10. Swings for 5. Blocks with Aimul. Just going to go ahead and pump it so that it turns into a trade. Choosing to pump twice to try to win the trade. Keep his Piale alive. Josh getting to gain the 7 life here. Swings in for 10. Josh doesn't particularly mind losing 10 life here because he has access to so much life gain. Gonna see a dig off of Kirik. Getting another high speed, so now he has 2 in his hand. So potential large amount of explosive damage here if he can kind of convert it before Josh can kind of reestablish. High speed on the pig, choosing not to do the awakening, which I think is interesting. 6 damage coming in, takes him down to 26. Now with 2 will open, potential next turn Goddard Welser, if he had it, would be very powerful. Getting the Aimul, getting a second altar, which will allow him to immediately invert it. Which also gets him another stone. So now Aimul is sitting at being a 9/9. And he doesn't miss his stone call for the turn, which is very excellent. Gonna go ahead and use the Arrival of the Hero to try to kill the Piale Ellie. He's going to use a Play Dead. Says that's fine, it can come back in, you'll gain your 2 counters back. And then he's going to use Arrival of the Hero now that the Play Dead is gone to kill the Ultra Dragon. We're going to see a Pathway part to bring the Ultra Dragon back to hand, which ultimately for Josh is just fine. Not having to worry about the Ultra Dragon anymore means that if Austin does want to play it, it's still going to cost him 3 will. Well, not leaving too much more of a board state behind to deal with. The other thing is, now that he has 3 inverses, the Aimul is significantly in a much better position to just answer Piale, because even if the Piale double pumps, it's still just a trade with Aimul. Hitting the Stone of the Hermit. Out, we're going to see that Ultra Dragon. So Josh very much in control of the tempo here of this game, swinging in with the pig. Says that's fine, I'll take 4. I don't mind it at all. I'm going to see a sacrifice of the pig, potentially. to recover Kirik to be able to gain some more counters. It's a little bit of a risky play, knowing that there's a Burgeoning Despair in the graveyard, because if Ultra Dragon dies for any reason, he has to discard a card at random, so he might be forced to lose that Ground and Air Supremacy. Choosing to pass the turn there. Going to Aimul. 4 stones, lots of work to do. There is a Ray you see there, but I think the Burgeoning Despair is probably the better card for Josh right now. Being able to potentially sacrifice 2 creatures. He's going to swing at the pig with Aimul. It's going to get sacrificed in response to try to recover the Kirik. Now that it's there, we're going to see a Burgeoning Despair get cast, which is going to kill both the dragon and the PLA and force a random discard from from the hand of Austin. Losing the high speed there. So the Ground and Air Supremacy is going to convert into a PLA next turn, which is pretty solid, but at the same time, Josh is very much back in control of this game and has definite hand advantage and board presence advantage over Austin. And considering how Austin still has 2,200 life left to go, he's got quite an uphill battle, especially with Aimul gaining a potential 900 every single turn. And during the upkeep, he's going to go ahead and grab that Kirik, that high speed with the dig, and then he's going to, well, he's thinking about grabbing the high speed, grabs the Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm instead. Goes to his turn, then calls Stone. Oh, gains 10 counters before recovery. Calling Stone hits another Stone of the Hermit. That's the stone that you can tap and banish it to give a dragon swiftness. Piale Ellie's going to come back in. We have a twin Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm in Austin's hand. Not a ton to work with here. I'm not entirely sure why he didn't choose to do Judgment and kill the Aimul that way rather than just leave up the will. He potentially would have had 1 will left over even after performing Judgment with Kirik, and at least he'd be threatening a much more aggressive body rather than having to worry about just sitting on 2 cards here. Josh deciding whether or not he wants to cast a card here, choosing no, I'm just going to go ahead and deal the 9 damage. We're seeing an Awakened Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm here, and this is an unfortunate misplay that Josh holds him accountable to for in a tournament. Heaven Sundering Dragon Palm can't target a J Ruler for its 5 damage. So he's forcing, by casting this card here, there is a legal target, and there has to be the Piale Ellie has to be the target. Josh is going to take the 4 damage here, but he's just going to gain 9, and so Austin's going to pump up Piale in response so that it doesn't die. Josh will go down to 18, and then he'll deal the 9, so taking down to Austin down to 31, and then up to 27 for Josh. Josh paying 2 to play that Ray the Black Owl. If for some reason that Ray is able to survive, it's going to be pretty devastating for Austin, having to deal with the 0 as well. We see just 4 damage coming through with the Heaven Sundering, takes Josh down to 23. Draw 1 card in recovery from Austin. It's an Ultra Dragon. Paying 3 for the Ultra Dragon here. And we are going to see a Judgment. Interesting decision for Austin here not to go ahead and tap in response to go back up to 10 counters. Because if he did, he'd be able to kill both the Ray and the Zero pretty effectively. By the mode you use is you burn each of them for 5 and then you move to recover. Potentially baiting out a way to do Burgeoning Despair or Flourishing Hope. Without wasting as few counters as possible. So he's going to sacrifice the Ray in response to the other burn to try to, neg the stats of the Piale, the thing that can hurt him this turn, at least for the one turn. Takes him down to being a 1-1. And then Kirik is still sitting at 5 counters left because he only gained back up to 15, but didn't have any when he initially flipped. Going into Josh's turn, casting a Flourishing Hope. Before the recovery to get that Burgeoning Despair active. Moving to recover. Debating between whether or not to play the Angel or to play the Altar. Just decides to pass. Does an interesting play here though. After the draw but before the recovery, he's going to cast the Burgeoning Despair, which forces him to discard a card at random and forces him to discard the Pake, leaving Austin with just Kirik, which unfortunately can't really do much against Aimul. Swings in for 12. He's going to say, that's fine, I'll go ahead and block it with Aimul, gain my 9 life. Kirik won't die, but I also, just as a free life gain, into a free card next turn with a Judgment. I don't necessarily think I agree with that decision from Austin. I would have probably preferred to... I mean, I guess at that point you're kind of locked out, but maybe even just calling for Stone does leave you open to potentially having Kirik killed. So that's understandable as well. You see an Altar come down into a Judgment off of Aimul. That's going to turn into a free Stone flip off of the Altar. And now Aimul is at a permanent 11-11. Actually gaining, with 5, it's going to gain up to being a 13-13. And seeing a Mephistopheles off the flip, going up to being a 15-15. And leaving Josh with 1 black-white source still available. Hardcast the Welser here from Austin. Swings in with Kirik at the Mephistopheles. He's going to go ahead and block it with the Aimul, which will get shot by the Kirik, so it becomes a trade. Josh still gains 15 life though, so gains up to 47. Draws for his turn, sitting on a whole handful of cards. Aimul's just going to get to flip again for those 2 basic white stones. Beforehand, though, choosing to play another Mephistopheles and then flip, going up to being a 17-17 with the Aimul and a permanent -4/-4 on Austin's side of the board. See the Angel of Hope come in, turns Aimul into a 19-19. Mainly just to get Aimul to be as big as possible. Swinging for 10 here, takes him down to 21. Austin calls to gain 10 counters. Digs here, gets a high speed. Looks like a ground and air supremacy, a play dead. Choosing to grab the play dead. Not super effective when you have the Welser on board, especially considering the Welser has a permanent -4/-4 to his stat line. Piale being the other card in hand, which will come in as a 1-1. Attempting to cast the high speed here to try to puff up Welser a little bit it will have the effect of duplicated. If he paid in for the Awakening, he would get the extra burn damage here. I don't think he chooses to do so. He's just using the copy off of the Welser. The potential thought is maybe he's going to use Play Dead after the fact, after it dies, to then bring it back, at which point he can cast another one, kind of like keeps hitting with the counters. So swinging into the Mephistopheles, he's going to go ahead and just block it with the Aimul. We see the Play Dead come down into play, and then in response to the Play Dead, he's going to use the Arrival of the Hero to kill the Welser, and at that point, that's just going to seal the game. So there you guys have it. That was the match. Huge thanks to Josh and Austin for being willing to record their top 8 match at ARG States in Michigan. The deck list for the Aimul and Friends list will be up later this week. We are not going to put up the Kirik list because we just did one later, unless you guys ask for it in the comment sections down below, so let me know. But until next time, thank you guys for watching, and this is DMO73 signing off.